Well, good morning. We're calling this meeting of the State Police Commission to order. Can I have a roll call, please, of the members present?
Brian Crawford,
Here.
Monty Matalago,
Here.
Vernell Neville,
Here.
Jared Ricky,
Here.
Lenore Feeney,
Here.
Jason Hanneman,
Here.
and Erica Dorsey.
Here.
Thank you. If we could have everybody rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. Face the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's an opportunity to address the commission by employees or others concerning items that are on the agenda. Do we have any requests this morning?
I did not receive any.
No requests. Move to business. Considering the minutes for the January 12th, 2023 meeting, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as
Commissioner Rickie made some motion. Need a second?
Second.
Commissioner Matalago makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. First case is consideration of a request from the Office of State Police for reinstatement of 4,207.27 hours of sick leave for State Police Master Trooper Michael Narcissus? Narcisse. Okay. Well, I'm from North Louisiana, so I don't have the vernacular to be able to. So per SPC Rule 11.21.1, representatives of the agency are to be available for questions from the commission. So we've got the authority. Do we have anybody from the petitioner here? Okay, you can proceed, sir. Please state your name for the commission and.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lieutenant Colonel Jody Hasselbeck, Deputy Superintendent of Patrol.
Okay, go ahead.
The Department has requested to reinstate 4,207 hours of sick leave to Master Trooper Michael Narcisse, who currently works at Troop D. In February of 2016, Master Trooper Narcisse was involved in an on-duty serious injury fleet accident at no fault of his own. It was a rear-ender. As a result of that fleet wreck, Master Trooper Narcisse sustained significant injuries to his back and neck. From February 2016 to February 2018, Master Trooper Narcisse visited numerous physicians to rehabilitate his back with injections and physical therapy. Unfortunately, these non-invasive techniques and procedures, they were unsuccessful. So Master Trooper Narcisse required 2 additional back surgeries, one in 2018 and one in 2020. In October 21, Master Trooper Narcisse returned to work to full duty at Troop D Delta after a 5-year leave of absence for sick leave, recovering from those injuries. In March of 2022, Master Trooper Narcisse submitted a request letter to be reimbursed 4,207 hours of sick leave as it relates to his on-duty injury. The department asked for your consideration in granting this request.
Great, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Do I hear anything from the commission to motion?
Make a to approve the 4,207 hours of sick leave reinstatement to Master Trooper Michael Narcisse. I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Matalago, seconded by Commissioner Rickie. Discussion? Let me just say this as the vice chair. And every time that we've had an opportunity to review one of these cases where an officer and a trooper has been injured in the line of duty, and has subsequently had to use sick leave time. We understand the sacrifices that troopers make every day. So we never hesitate to award that time back. It's always been a unanimous consent from the commission to do that. So I would ask my fellow commissioners to join me this morning in passing this resolution. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Item 3 on the agenda is consideration of a request from the Office of State Police for the 2-year reauthorization of 21 part-time way positions. We're going to skip that, and we're going to go, Chairman Simeon is on his way. He's teaching a legal class this morning, but he should be here by 10, hopefully, and he wants to specifically address this case. So we're going to move to item number 4, which is a request by Commissioner Montalago to speak on the subject of the promotional exam and in support of drafting an amendment to State Police Commission Rule 7.22. Commissioner Montalago.
Good morning. The, State Police Commission requires mandatory promotion every 2 years. And as the current rules stand, an applicant's eligibility is based on the candidate's most recent score on that promotional exam. My request today is for support in drafting a circular that would amend State Police Commission Rule Chapter 7 to allow for eligibility to be based on the highest score during that 2-year mandatory promotional period instead of the most recent score. Historically, and prior to mandatory retests, if a trooper had a promotable score, they would retain that score until they either got promoted or were outscored or no longer able to qualify as an applicant on a particular eligibility list. And my proposed discussion would allow for applicants to retake the promotional exam without the consequence of retaining that most recent score, but they would retain the highest score during that testing period. An amendment of this nature would be in the best interest of both the department and troopers, as it would encourage aspiring supervisors to study more often, furthering their knowledge of the promotional exam material, which includes state police policy and procedure, Louisiana laws, Louisiana District Attorney's guidelines, and leadership material. These 4 subjects are not only imperative to good supervisory leadership, but also make for a more well-rounded trooper prior to promotion. So I'm excited to engage in conversation with the department and with the commission to move forward on this topic, and I'm open to any and all feedback and suggestions prior to the circular's drafting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any of the commissioners have any comments?
I'm going to reserve until the colonel has his chance to speak.
Okay. Colonel, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioners. Thank you all for having me. Colonel Lamar Davis, Superintendent of State Police, Deputy Secretary of Department of Public Safety Services. I greatly appreciate Commissioner Montalago point on this. In fact, we've moved towards having a committee to examine our entire promotional process. I think it's necessary. We want to make sure that we're operating in good fashion as well as based upon best practices across the nation. So while I agree that we do need to move forward, I think it would be incumbent and more prudent for us to really take a holistic view and look across the nation to see what those best practices are, and then from there, use that diverse committee to formulate the best pathway going forward. And I just don't want us to make a move right now and then the committee come back with other recommendations and then we, again, have to change course. I think that would impact morale as well as the efficiency of the office. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Colonel. Commissioner Rickey.
Yeah. Do you have a timeline on that as far as what you think, I'm not trying to hold you to a certain date. I'm just saying, are we talking 30, 60, 90? Are we talking a year? What are we talking about?
We're not talking a year.
Okay.
They've already commenced and started that process. So they're in an evaluation process, collecting of information from other agencies. And from there, they're going to reconvene, start putting a proposal together. So I do expect an update in the next maybe 60 days or so, 30, 60 days. And then from there, we'll be able to better advise you on how far, how close we are to making that recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I understand and agree with my fellow commissioner's position that you shouldn't be, penalized for trying to retake an exam and better yourself. But I'm interested to see what best practices nationwide search, which,
Sure.
thank you.
Colonel, do we know what civil service and how the state civil service with fire and police, municipal police, as far as their testing, as far as Commissioner Montalago's recommendation, do they hold the testing for the last test taken to be the final score? Or are you able to take multiple tests and then just retain the highest score? Do we know that yet? Or is that something your your committee's gonna look into?
Yes, I do not personally know that, but that is something that they will take a look at. And again, that's why it's important for us to look at across the board, not only state civil service, but other state police agencies. Because when you're talking about recruitment, and retention, we're losing troopers to other state police organizations. So we want to see what those best practices are, and then from there, incorporate those so that we can start to retain, promote the best qualified, and then grow our agency as we should. So again, I do not have that answer right now, but that will be a part of the assessment process.
Okay. So those are promotional exams. When we talk about entry level, is that part of the process as well?
This is just
Just promotional?
specific to the promotional process.
Okay. And so is the promotional process where there's one test given for, how long does the test last? 18 months?
There's a 2-year testing period, and we're doing tests now in May and November.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with your position. I also agree with the colonel too, that I think recommendations from the administration on how they're going to address this in the future, and the timeline being not too far in the future to give the commission something to really take a look at,
Yes, sir.
I think can be incorporated with the commission's concern as well. And at the end of the day, we want the greatest advantage for you to be able to make your decisions on who gets promoted based on the best applicant, and giving them multiple opportunities to test to be able to do that. I think is something that we're all in favor of.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so we'll look at that in the future.
Yes, sir. The idea is simply to measure twice, cut once.
That's exactly right. So any commissioners have any other comments?
I'm excited to engage in some discussion on this, on a draft of a circular that would be, best practice for all of us.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Commissioner Montalago is back up to speak on the subject of recruitment in cadets and retention of troopers. Commissioner?
So, just hold your seat, Colonel.
Just pull back and forth.
We currently have 882 troopers of roughly, 1,100 troopers, according to our table of organizations. Nationally, the law enforcement and the field of criminal justice maybe isn't what it used to be. So recruitment and retention, I know it's a shared priority for the department and the commission. We talk about accountability, and rightfully so. All of us should be held accountable for our actions, and we focus a lot of our attention on ensuring that we hold troopers accountable for their actions, and we hold supervisors accountable for their troopers' actions. And we've made, our state police has made many policy changes in recent months and years, and is continuing to do a top-to-bottom, side-to-side review to ensure that we continue to progress in the right direction. And the state police commissioners and the executive director are all committed to working on compensation options that will attract and retain new hires. Many surrounding agencies and states are surpassing state police in entry pay, and while what's required is a comprehensive study of the pay scale, I think there are some immediate adjustments that maybe we could make to help make the job more appealing to new and existing troopers. One of those, I like to call it a low-hanging fruit, is shift differential pay. Currently, shift differential pay is 50 cents per hour, and that's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Or Saturdays and Sundays, 24 hours. So I'm interested in researching and developing a plan that would be appealing and make those positions from 6 PM to 6 AM and nights and weekends, more palatable for the guys on the road. You know, we reduced fatalities last year by 150 throughout the state. And you don't do that from Monday to Friday working 9 to 5. You do that 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I think that shift differential is certainly something that we can all take a look at. I think 50 cents an hour is probably on the minimal of the market, and we should look to increase that. I would also like to research and discuss some type of on-call supplemental pay and our rules pertaining to such. Currently, these are all in Chapter 6, and we have parameters within Chapter 6 to make some. Chapter 6 has boundaries set, but we have some room to negotiate that price. So I think that we come up with a solution together on shift diff and on-call pay. Also, you know, many law enforcement agencies provide incentives such as post-secondary educational incentives. This would be based on, you know, having an associate's, a bachelor's, or a master's degree, or other, you know, degrees that a trooper may hold. And, you know, what our goal is, or should be, is to reward the good troopers that we have. And I think that, you know, while we have guys out there working nights and weekends, they should be compensated for that work, because it's good work. And also, you know, having some post-secondary educational incentives for applicants and current troopers who have those degrees would be beneficial to public safety in the state of Louisiana and the department. So I'm excited to, again, Colonel, discuss these. It's never easy to ask for a raise, right? It's never a good time either. But I do think that these just these three things we may be able to fund while we're looking at a full payroll study.
Well, again, thank you, Commissioner. And let me say this, you know, the men and women that go out each day and leave their families and do the job that we're asked to do are phenomenal. I will tell anyone, I will stand on top of a mountain, because we have some just amazing people that do amazing things. And I'm all for, I think our entire profession, quite frankly, should be paid more for what we're asked to do. With that said, you know, we've had some stumbles in the past, in the recent past, and we are working to really increase our accountability, our professionalism, our leadership, our transparency, and things of that nature. And I think it was important for me that we had an objective viewpoint, someone from the outside come in and conduct a top-to-bottom assessment. And I think before we can kind of move, and while I agree we need to start moving towards researching those elements to determine where we fit on the pay scale. And there are agencies that have passed us up, okay? But as an agency head, I have to consider all areas of what we do, because if it's like whack-a-mole. If you pull from one, if you give to one, you're gonna pull from the other. And oftentimes that means I have to make a decision on, do we get the proper equipment to save our lives, or do we pay? So I agree with you. That is something we definitely need to research, and that's going to be something that we're going to move forward with. On the immediate front for me is making sure we're the agency that we should be, that we're performing our duties in a professional manner, and we're providing a service to our citizens as we should. And that's number one for me. And as we do that, I don't think it would be any problem getting a raise or anything else that we deserve. So I look forward to that conversation. I think that's something we should be doing jointly. And I do agree with recruiting. Every last trooper on this job, every last person employed by state police is a recruiter. We should all be out there recruiting. And we should be looking at the men and women out in our communities, because we are a part of our communities, and we should be looking at them to see if they are suitable, if they have what it takes to really do this job and provide that service. So I look forward to it. And yes, I think we should be looking towards that direction.
I thank you for your commitment to discussion and engagement on these issues, Colonel.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Colonel, just one question, just for the public, because we know this gets broadcast. So the pay scale for troopers, does it include any additional incentives other than working out of class or up in class? And we know that they receive that differential when they do that, but any shift differential, education differential, special training differential, anything that's provided to the troopers in addition to what their base salary is?
So there's a couple of our TSOs and our pilots. They receive out-of-class increased pay. But as far as education, I'll tell you, I have 3 degrees. I am not getting paid for either one of those degrees.
Yeah.
So I believe that, if you take the initiative, you gain the knowledge and the experience and the theoretical aspect of this job, and you keep up with best practices, then you should be rewarded, because in the private sector, you're being rewarded. We're being affected by that. And we look at, for instance, our cyber program, where we have men and women in that program that are really stopping attacks around our state. And they're being snatched up. We train them, we bring them on, we train them, we give them the information and the knowledge. And then, of course, the private sector snatches them up. And that happens with our troopers as well. Not as often, because they're more, quite frankly, they're dedicated to what they do. But that is a problem. And we're losing troopers, agencies into the private sector. So it needs to be really looked at to give us those incentives to keep our personnel and retain them.
Yeah, I agree. Just from a municipal standpoint, and having been the fire chief in Shreveport, for instance, and this was applicable on both sides, fire and police, you had base pay, and then if you had, say you went and got your paramedic, or you were trained to be a paramedic, you had paramedic incentive pay on top of that. You also had advanced degree pay on top of that. You also had, if you were a hazmat technician, you get additional training. And so it provided additional incentive for members to seek those additional certifications, and it was beneficial not only for the member because they increased their pay, and that went to their retirement as well. It also helped the population and the public, and at the end of the day, that's what we're here to serve. And so when you have those higher trained, higher skilled individuals that are out there because they want to be out there, I think having something in place to incentivize that is, like you said, I think we're probably behind the curve here at LSP with doing that, because we've had those things in place as a municipality for 20 years, since 2000 at least. So I'm interested to see, if we can get a pay study done from an outside perspective, somebody who will evaluate other best practices in other jurisdictions as well as those inside the state. I think it'll be very interesting and very telling. And with your remarks, you're spot on when you talk about taking from one and giving to another, because some of the quagmire that we ran into even when I was chief and we started some of the incentive pay was, how many positions get it? Can everybody go get the certification? Then you got to pay everybody. I only needed 30 hazmat techs, but then if I had 31, 32 that just went and got the certifications on their own, do you pay those people too, even though you're not utilizing them on the job? So there's a lot of things that the devil's in the detail with those issues, but I think you're on the right track. I commend my fellow commissioner for bringing it up today, because I think it's a discussion that needs to continue. It's one of those things that if it doesn't continue, it just kind of gets pushed away, and then another fiscal year, and that's where you have to deal with legislators and get them on board too. So you're not taking from your equipment budget to increase the salaries of those brave troopers out there. You're getting additional funding from the state to facilitate that program. So
Yes, sir.
thank you for that, and thank you, Commissioner, for bringing it up. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All rise, the chairman's here. Just kidding.
Perfect time.
That's right. Just
Call out how late I am.
just in time.
Just in time.
Okay, folks, we're going to head into executive session regarding discussions and considerations of pending litigation. So I need a motion from a member of the body.
I'd like to make a motion for executive
So
session.
moved.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It passes. We'll ask everyone to leave the premises, at least this room, and take everything that you brought in with you out with you. So no recording devices, no tablets, no books, bags, or anything else that can be confiscated and burnt. So,
Have to do a roll call. Mr. Crawford.
oh, sorry. Roll call?
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Montalago,
Yes.
Brunel Neville,
Yes.
Euless Simeon,
Yes.
and Jared Ricky.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Been moved
Second.
and second. Take a roll call vote, please.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Montalvo,
Yes.
Burnell Neville,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
and Euless Simeon.
Yes. Takes us to item 3 under the business items on the agenda. Consideration of a request from the Office of State Police for the 2-year reauthorization of 21 part-time WAE positions. As a representative of the agency will be available to answer questions of the commission.
Lieutenant Colonel Jody Hasselbeck, Deputy Superintendent Patrol. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss and the request to renew the 2-year reauthorization of 21 WAE positions. The majority of these positions that we're asking for renewal are in patrol. And as you know, we have quite a few vacancies in patrol. We have 188 vacancies statewide. We have about 165 in patrol alone. The shortages, there are many theories on why we have these vacancies. The bottom line, it's attrition. In 2021, we had 65 retirements. That was 2022. In 2021, we had 71 retirements. We had 45 the year before that. It's attrition. 27, 28 years ago, we hired several hundred troopers. Then we had a 6-year gap where we had no hires, and these are the consequences for that. So with that said, the WAE program is very, very important to us. These positions allow us to maintain an operational efficiency in a high tempo. We are doing great work out there, even with the vacancies we have. And one of the reasons for that is because we do have that WAE program, and we're very grateful for it. All of our WAEs are graduates of the State Police Academy, and a majority of them have between 20 and 30 years of institutional knowledge. Most of them have experience not only in patrol, but also in the Bureau of Investigation, which makes them extremely well-rounded. They perform a wide variety of tasks, as you know, and they're used in all the divisions within State Police, patrol, CID, support, and so on. They allow our commissioned troopers to perform public safety duties, and really that's why we're here. Now, we also understand that the WAE program is a temporary solution to a long-term problem, and we are sensitive to that. But right now, because of the shortages, we humbly request that you grant the reauthorization of those 21 WAE positions.
Questions from any commissioners? This is billed as part-time WAE positions, is that correct? At least according to the request I'm looking at.
Yes, sir.
Are any of these individuals working, what's the average number of hours that these individuals are working?
Human Resources put together a spreadsheet, and the majority of our WAEs that are up for renewal are working anywhere from 18 hours a week upwards of 39, but the majority are around 30 to 32 hours average per week. And again, sir, that's an average.
And the 21 in particular that we're talking about now would be actually out patrolling?
The majority of them, I believe 17 of the 21 fall under patrol.
So when did these WAE positions expire?
They've expired, there's a whole,
What's the longest?
I believe August.
What's the shortest?
Some expired last month.
And I know we've had these discussions in the past. And discussions have been, y'all need to come to us before we get into this situation. We've also talked about, well, we don't want to do them every meeting, so we need to try to anticipate the future. Any explanation as to why we're in a situation we're dealing with some that expired in August, and you're asking us now to approve retroactive back to August.
Yes, sir. All I can say is we've had some administrative oversights. We're in a transitional period at the executive command staff level. However, we have recently, in the last few months, put in protocols to make certain this doesn't happen again. Our goal and our objective is to do this quarterly. We're okay with doing it semi-annually. However, that would require a lot of time when we do that, and it would require a lot of your time to go through. I believe we currently have 71 WAEs. So right now, the protocols that we have in place, we plan on doing this every quarter. Again, we've had some slip through the cracks. We have to own that. And it's my intention to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Last time y'all were here, if I recall correctly, asking for us to approve some WAEs, there was a request from this commission that y'all put together some statistical data. Are you familiar with that request?
Yes, sir.
Have we gotten the statistical data yet?
I don't know if it's been delivered to you, but we do have some statistical data on race, gender, average hours per work. Is that what you're referring to?
That's the ones I'm referring to.
Yes, sir.
Any ideas when you plan on having it delivered?
How about today?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that information came over yesterday afternoon, and it's in the binder, at the very front of the binder.
I was unaware of that.
Correct. It was a late arrival.
I mean, and my question earlier, it wasn't really in response to how often we do this, but more to making sure that we get protocols in place to ensure that we're not having to, after the fact, bless the situation that is already.
I'm in agreement with you, sir.
Anybody else, any questions?
How would you feel, Colonel, about doing this one time a year and where you have, well, we have 71 WAE positions now?
At the moment,
I feel
yes.
like we spend, about an hour or so every 3 months talking about the WAE. So if we do it fiscally, let's say July, for every WAE renewal once a year, would you be opposed to doing it all at one time?
The department would not be opposed to that.
And I think that it would potentially save us all time, and we invest that time just the one time, once a year. I like that.
Is that something we could address that, even though it's not on the agenda? So I should be asking Lenore that question.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is that something we can address, though it's not on the agenda? Directing that they be
It's in the
brought to
parameters
us?
of the WAE
Yeah,
program.
it's still within the purview of
Okay.
the category of what we're
Is
talking
that a
about.
motion?
Not all of it yet.
Okay.
In addition, I'd also recommend that the commission clarify that the WA positions allow for the specific skill set gained during a trooper's career, which provides an asset to the department and the public safety of our citizens of Louisiana. These WA positions have specific authorizations requested by the department and approved by the commission. As we're looking into making adjustments to the WAE program or the way that we renew them, I'd also, as a commission, like to exempt the department from the restrictions of the WAE authorizations for the Mardi Gras season to allow for WAE employees to assist in the public safety mission of state police. Interest is to allow the WAEs an exemption from their specific authorization during the Mardi Gras season to allow them to assist in the public safety mission of state police. So,
I would enthusiastically second that motion.
Let me just meet with Lenore just 1 second. Make sure we do it procedurally correctly.
send it.
Procedurally, what I would at this point do is make a motion to add the first item that was raised by Commissioner to the agenda. We have to do a vote on that, and we'll do it by roll call vote. It must be a unanimous vote in order to add it to the agenda today. And the first item was to require that the WAE reappointment, reapprovals be brought up on an annual basis, and I think you suggested July?
I'd like to do it.
Okay. If we don't have a meeting in July, then obviously we would defer it to a next meeting. So I would make the motion that we add that item to the agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been added and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Burnell Neville,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
and Eula Simeon.
Yes. Okay, now would you go ahead and make your motion, the one motion?
My motion is for the annual renewal of WAE positions fiscally, but whether it be in July or June. So it would just, across the board, annual WAE renewals as opposed to quarterly.
And so maybe we could just say, to be set at the discretion of the commission approximately annually.
Yes.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The second motion I would make is to expand the agenda again to address the question of whether or not there should be an exemption to the prohibition on WAEs
Performing public safety tasks during the Mardi Gras season.
performing public safety tasks during the Mardi Gras season throughout the state.
True.
Throughout the state of Louisiana. Second to that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Burnell Neville,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
and Eula Simeon.
The motion is to exempt the WAE authorizations to allow them to assist in the public safety mission of state police during the Mardi Gras season inside the state of Louisiana.
I'll second.
Does the department have a position on that motion that's been moved and seconded?
We support that motion.
Any further discussion? To reiterate the reasons.
Historically, Mardi Gras is an all hands on deck situation, and with the skill sets that the WAEs have, it is imperative that we allow some of these guys to assist in our mission in New Orleans, whether it be to specific tasks, details, the French Quarter detail, whatever it may be. I think we've said it 3 or 4 times this morning. We have 882 troopers on deck, and we're allowed for approximately 1,100. We need all the help we can get. And with these guys who are commissioned personnel, they're retired, and they're working for state police currently, all that we are asking for is to exempt those guys from the parameters that their specific authorization is for and allow them to assist during the Mardi Gras season.
Would your intent be that this motion upon passage would take effect immediately?
Yes.
Okay. We have a second to the motion.
And say again?
Commissioner Montalongo, would that also include exemption to the approved hourly rate?
That would also include exemption to the approved hourly rate, yes. Thank you.
And I plan on voting in favor of the motion, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say this should have come to us already. Can't have positions, I'm not talking, we can't have a position of what is authorized and what's not authorized, and then after the fact have to deal with what got to be more proactive on the front end to deal with these issues. And I understand it wasn't intentional, nobody thought about it, but we got to think about it. You know, we've got to make sure that as a body, we cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that we doing everything. And I know this is not an issue that involves somebody being hurt or anything like that, but it's still an important procedural issue that needs to be handled on the front end.
Agreed, sir. We appreciate your position on that.
Just a curiosity question for me, and I understand that there's different pay levels depending on what's being, how is this funded? Is it where this additional pay is being paid to people because they're working in Mardi Gras?
Additional duties, it could be a parade, it could be Endymion, Bacchus, extra duty details that these troopers were requested to assist with.
And there's a predetermined pay scale for those
Yes,
things?
sir.
And how is the determination made, whether it's WAE or whether it's current troopers, as to who gets those further details?
It's determined by policy. You know, those rates are set. If we go above those rates, it requires the approval of the chief of staff. And it's a temporary approval.
I guess my question was more directed to the selection of the persons who have those opportunities.
Yeah, it's open to whomever is available to work it. Mardi Gras, typically we have 100 to 140 troop personnel, state police personnel working it. So if it's, say, for instance, it's Endymion Ball, we'll have troopers come in from Baton Rouge, from Homa, as far as Lafayette, to work that one detail.
And obviously, we can't do this today, but I would like to see statistical data on, similar statistical data we had on WAEs on the selection for people for this increased pay.
That the same type of data?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can provide that.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just very quickly, in North Louisiana, the forgotten part of the state, Mardi Gras has infected us as well. So we have half a dozen large parades up there. Centaur and Gemini both attract more than 100,000 people, if you didn't know that. So my question is, I know we have extensive law enforcement presence there, from the sheriff's department to the municipal of Shreveport and Bossier. Does the state police also participate? I'm sure they do. So this affects us as well. I know we had mentioned New Orleans, but I wanted to shout out to North Louisiana as well.
They're coming into the 21st century.
Great question. No, so we do support those Mardi Gras festivities in Ouachita, in Bossier, Shreveport, with troop personnel. I believe recently we agreed to provide aviation support for one or two of the parades up there. Again, we don't have the personnel that we have down south, obviously, but yes, we do have a presence there, and as far back as I can remember, we've always participated in those events in the big cities up north, such as Alexandria, Monroe, and Shreveport.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So now we'll move to the first point that you came up to discuss. The item that is on the agenda, the approval of the 21 part-time WAEs. Any further discussion? I think we already had a motion for that. If we did not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll just reiterate, let's do this on the front end next time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Item 4 on the business agenda, request by Commissioner Montalongo to.
No,
No, 7. They did all that one.
You missed.
We're efficient.
Y'all were efficient while I was trying to train
You were right on time. You were scooping.
train young minds, yes. Okay, I guess y'all told them why I was late.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving to item number 7, in the matter of Russell Graham, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 22-246-S. Appellant's motion to enforce subpoena.
264.
What did I say?
You said 246.
Oh, 264-S. Appellant's motion to enforce subpoena requests for documents. Mary Ann White representing Mr. Graham, Gail Holland, and Tunde. What's your last name for me, sir? I'm sorry.
Animation.
It's gonna take me a little while. With a name like Eula Simeon, you'd think I could pronounce everybody's name, but unfortunately I can't. Representing the Office of State Police and more arguments.
Hi, good morning, Commission. My name is Mary Ann White. I represent Lieutenant Russell Graham in this matter. I wanted to we have a little housekeeping for y'all. We were able to come to an agreement on one of these points. We have, and that's with respect to the training manual. So I believe that the department and we have agreed to enter into a stipulation that would take care of that particular part of this motion, and the stipulation is that there were no written instructions or policies in place prior to or on the date of the incident on February 16th, 2022 regarding physical interactions between instructors or cadets.
That's our agreement, y'all.
So that would take care of my issue with the procedural manuals, but I still have the other two issues, which are emails and text messages related to training procedures for officer cadet interactions during the training academy. I had requested a subpoena for those documents. I also requested a subpoena for emails and text messages related to the incident on February 16th, 2022, which is the subject of this appeal. And I had specified the different people, the staff members that we wanted the text messages and emails from. So we had a list. And I would direct you to, if you have in front of you, I have some exhibits that I attached to my motion. And I apologize, I kind of jumped into the motion without explaining, assuming everyone has read everything. So I'll kind of backtrack. I filed a motion to enforce the subpoena that we requested be issued in this matter. We asked for a number of documents, and we were denied some of the documents. And so I'm bringing this motion now just as to the two items that I just discussed with you, the emails and text messages related to the incident on February 16, 2022, and related to development of training and or procedures for officer cadet interactions during the training academy. That request was denied, and the reasons given, I was directed to State Police Commission Rule 13.13D and E as the reason for denying the emails and text messages related to the training procedures. D, 13.13D, it requires that the subpoena has to be delivered to the executive director no later than 15 calendar days before the date fixed for hearing. We delivered ours 17 days before, so that was complied with. It also says that the request for subpoena shall contain a description of the items to be produced in sufficient detail for identification. And we did identify the items that we were requesting. If you turn, if you have it in front of you, I had attached to my motion the actual request. Or actually, I attached the denial, and the denial was the request with the handwritten note on it stating the reason for the denial. That is Exhibit 2 to my motion. And if you see on page 2 of my subpoena request, I listed the names of the individuals we wanted the emails and text messages from. I also listed the name and address of where the subpoena should go. and that was the Department of Public and Safety. That's also one of the requirements of 13.13D. And in the other column, I listed what we intended to prove by the documents. And I said lack of training regarding the incident alleged in the disciplinary letter and substantiation of allegations of the petition of the appeal.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you
Yes,
briefly?
yes.
Would you refresh my recollection on what you said the stipulation was that y'all just entered into?
Sure.
That was on the main.
Okay. The stipulation is that there were no written instructions or policies in place prior to or on the date of the incident on February 16, 2022, regarding physical interactions between instructors or cadets.
Thank you.
So with respect to this particular request, we complied with the time, we were timely. We complied with who the subpoena should be directed to. We specified what exactly the documents were that we were requesting. And we also stated what we intended to prove by the allegations. And so in accordance with 13.13D, we complied with everything with respect to that. And I will say with respect to what we intend to prove by the allegations, we said the substantiation of the allegations of the petition of appeal, and also we wanted to establish that there were no training procedures in place. And if you look at the petition of appeal, we talk about the fact that there were a lot of opinions expressed during the investigative affairs interviews. Opinions were requested, opinions were taken, and opinions were relied upon in the decision in this matter. They are included in the report, and there are some that are included in the suspension letter. The ones in the suspension letter are all negative opinions. And so I believe we are entitled to the emails and text messages related to the incident in question and related to the training procedures, because if opinions are going to be relied upon to make a decision to suspend an officer for 40 hours without pay, then I think he's entitled to know what those opinions were from the very beginning, immediately after the incident, and leading up to, if not even after, the internal affairs investigation. The only opinions that we're able to see and that we're able to have any knowledge of are the opinions that were expressed during the internal affairs investigation. And I will say, and I believe it's included in the investigative, the IA report, but and it's actually, we have a stipulation on this, but when the interviews began, the investigator informed the interviewees that they were investigating a use of force or excessive force incident. So I would say to you that that could change an opinion or that could alter an opinion. And so we would like, and we think we're entitled to see the emails and text messages related to not only the training and procedures that were in place for cadet officer interactions during the academy, but also for anything related to the incident in question, because we think that we're entitled to see what those opinions were because the decision was made based on those opinions. So that's what we established as the relevance of that.
How do you respond to the question that obviously the department has to rely on what was in the letter to support its decision? And if what's in the letter doesn't support its decision, then it won't be affirmed. So where is, I'm losing the relevance of what might have been said or might have been thought by individuals if it's not going to be a basis for either affirming or overruling the department's decision.
Right, and that's a good point. The letter does provide the opinions of certain of the officers and what their opinion was as they viewed the incident in question, whether it was viewing it after the fact while watching a video or viewing it as it occurred. But the opinions of the officers were included in the disciplinary letter.
You said you have those, And you have all of the recordings from the IA investigation, correct? Including those that might have had favorable opinions. My question was more directed to the point of, we have to evaluate as an appeal body, we have to evaluate and make our decision based on what's been specified as reasons and decide whether or not those reasons are sufficient. Where would your access to these other emails that are not, these other opinions that are not expressed in the letter, where would that help us in making that decision?
Well, I think it would help in the fact that, well, again, I don't know if opinions changed. I don't know that. I think it would help if there was an opinion that was changed, a significant opinion, then we would be able to introduce testimony on that if the opinion that's stated in the letter is different from the opinion in either the email or the text.
But you have the right to call each and every one of those persons as a witness, do you not?
I
Whose
do,
opinions
but
were expressed.
I do, but I don't have any documents to, to question them on, or, I'm not even sure if the witnesses in question would remember all the different things that they expressed in text or email about this. And so I would like the opportunity to be able to question them on that and be able to show them any documents with respect to that.
There's no time limit on your request for when these text messages and emails should be gathered.
That is correct, but I said regarding the incident on February 16, 2022.
Well, I'm talking about your second one.
Okay.
Emails and text messages related to development of training and procedures. I should have made that clear. Training and procedures for officer cadet interaction. I mean, officer cadet interactions have been going on for years and years and years. Is there any limit on what time frame you're looking for these?
So now that we have the stipulation in place that there were no written instructions with respect to the physical interactions, I think that we could agree on to limit it to after the incident in question. Maybe even just before, in the event that there were some discussions about training and things like that. But at the time, I didn't have that, I didn't have the documents, and so I wanted to see the full.
So at this point,
scope.
you'd be willing to limit it to a time period that would
Right.
precede by a short period of time or subsequent to the incident.
Correct.
Any suggested time period that you'd be willing to limit that to?
Okay. Okay, so 8 months before the incident, so 8 months before February 16th, 2022,
Thank you.
all the way, I would say, to the date I issued the subpoena or the request.
Just wanted to get some clarification on the scope of what you're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, and so let me just make sure I addressed any other arguments. The other issue that was specified as the reason for the denial, specifically for the emails about the training and procedures for officer cadet interactions, it was listed that it was 13.13E. 13.13E says no subpoena will be issued at the request of a party unless the request complies with the rule and the person authorized to issue the subpoena is satisfied that the testimony of the witness or production of the books, papers, or other items is relevant to the issues before the commission. And it says, if denied, the issue can be presented to the commission for consideration, which is what I'm doing today. And so this one is all about the relevance of the request. And as I stated earlier, I do believe the relevance of whether there were training procedures either being discussed or being implemented with respect to officer cadet interactions. And I would say that training is different from the stipulation we have entered. Written instructions are different from training. And so I do think that that is relevant to this case because that is one of the points of contention is that there was no training and I believe that, that makes it relevant here.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it. Thank
Any
you.
questions from anybody else before she sits? Okay.
May it please the commission, looking at the commission's rule 13.13D, it actually require it to be very specific.
Is there any question about technical compliance with timeliness?
No, there's no question with that.
Okay.
Because it was-
So what is the issue that
The
we?
issue is not specific.
Okay.
There is no specific indication to indicate what is being requested. Just like you asked the question, there is no time limit in it. It's very broad. It's very overly broad, because the section 13 actually indicates that it shall contain a description of the items to be produced in a sufficient detail. There is no detailed description of what it is. That makes it invalid, because you cannot actually identify what is being requested, and it shall contain the names and the street address of the person who is required to be produced and what is intended to be proven. The request is very overly broad. It's not being specific enough. And also concerning the section E, the relevancy, the issue is not about Calvin Blake. The issue is about Lieutenant Russell Graham conduct, and the denial should be upheld because we believe that they did not comply with the commission rule.
So you don't believe that the discussions of training or procedures or interaction between a trooper and the cadet is relevant to this inquiry?
No, sir, because Lieutenant Graham is a lieutenant, he's an XO. He could testify as to what the interactions are. You could call witnesses to testify as to what took place. And that's the opportunity where you have hearing. Either you're going to affirm or deny what was done. Opinion is not facts. In an appellate proceedings, what you are required to look at is the facts and what are the basis upon which the facts were relied upon. In an opinion, is very speculative at best.
Were some of the facts relied upon, the expression of use the word loosely, opinions or perceptions on what was or was not appropriate behavior?
That's speculative, Mr. Chairman.
No, my question to you was a part of the basis for the decision, the expression of what individuals believed was or was not appropriate?
The basis upon which the decision was made is the policy, and the violation of the policy is the basis upon which it was suspended. Not based upon speculative ideas. It was based upon the unlawful conduct of Lieutenant Russell Graham.
So is it I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding, is it the department's position that the suspension was not based on those opinions, but based on the policy?
That's correct.
Thank you. Took me a while, but I got it.
Okay.
Any brief rebuttal?
Yes, briefly. Just to point out that I disagree that we were not specific in our request. We provided the subject matter of the emails and text messages, which would have been, number one, training, procedures related to officer cadet interactions. And number two, it was anything related to the incident on February 16, 2022, which is the subject of this appeal. It was a very, very specific incident. It was occurred during pool PT training, which was an hour-long training session. So that narrows the scope of the emails. We didn't need to talk about anything else. I didn't ask for anything else related to Training Academy or Cadet Kevin Blake. It was just that specific incident, which is the subject of this appeal. And I named the specific officers that I wanted to see what their emails and text messages were. So I narrowed it down to specific individuals. And just addressing the opinion, I disagree to the extent that the suspension letter, and I think it does, and I don't have it prepared to point out to you, but I do think that it references opinions and what the perceptions were of some of the officers. And so to the extent that it does, I think that the decision was based on that. So
Was there an objection, and I've read through the stuff, but I don't recall, was there an objection to the subpoena prior to the vote?
Yes,
Oh, there was an objection?
No,
objection to what?
no,
No, no, not from them.
No, an
not from
objection.
you.
Oh, okay.
No.
No.
And certainly our referee has the authority without an objection rule. I just wanted to get that fact in my head as to what was going on. Any questions from anybody else? You'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the issues related to the alleged misconduct involved in this case as set forth in the letter of discipline.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Take a roll call vote. Any discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Vernell Neville,
Yes.
Jared Ricky.
Yes.
And Euless Simeon.
Yes. You. Everybody ready?
Sure.
Entertain a motion to, leave executive session.
I'll move.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Take a roll call vote, please.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Vernell Neville,
Yes.
Jared Ricky.
Yes.
And Eula Simeon.
Yes. Point in time, we'll return to a public, discussion of the subpoena requests in the matter of Russell Graham, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 22-264-S. Have any motions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner?
I'm going to make a motion to grant the appellant's motion to enforce the subpoena requested for the documents. However, I'm going to stipulate a modification in excluding number one, emails and text messages related to the incident on February 16, 2022, but to include emails and text messages related to the development of training and/or procedures for the officer cadets' interactions during the training period. And I would also recommend that the parties, both from the appellant and the appointing authority, get together to stipulate those specific phrases and terms or words that need to be specific to the email request and text message searches, as well as Mrs. White's reference to a specific time period. No longer in retrospect back greater than 8 months, and then going forward to a specific time period that would be not a hindrance on the authority to produce those documents.
Do we have a?
I'll second.
Let me ask if you would accept a friendly amendment to end the date at the date of the commission, the date of the event.
Certainly.
My second holds true.
So the motion currently pending is to deny the first part of it. The third part they've dealt with by stipulation, to grant, but with the modification that it ends at the date of the incident, and that the parties are to get together to narrow the scope of the discovery, maybe get some word searches, something that can make it something feasible that can be done. And to get together. If they can't get together, we'll let the referee deal with trying to wrangle them into something that might be feasible. Would y'all accept that as a part of the motion
Yes.
as well? Okay. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So, the question is, we have a hearing set. Obviously, this can't happen in the next 5 minutes. Are y'all willing to forego a hearing in order to get the documents that you are seeking?
Yes, we are.
Okay. The next available date for a hearing is our next scheduled meeting, which is less than 30 days from now. Would y'all be willing to waive the 30-day?
Do we have the exact date on
I
that?
think it's the 9th also. Do you have,
Yeah, it would be because 28 days makes it fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9th of March, 9th.
Mr. Chairman, we have some witnesses who are out of state, out of town. Do we reissue the subpoena, or how do we?
We went through this before. I'll let our referee tell y'all what to do.
for the next hearing date, you would have to reissue, not reissue, but request again whatever subpoenas you want for the hearing, the new hearing date.
Mr. Chairman, it was actually a hardship for our witness to come here today. And even though he didn't have the opportunity to testify, we wanted to know if it was possible for us to get an order from you guys to pay him for his mileage and his time.
Directed to our referee.
I think the rules already state that you pay the mileage and the witness fee based on the fees set forth in the 19th Judicial District Court fee schedule.
Yes, and it, but for our accounting purposes, I think we may need something, or
Send them
order.
a copy of the rule.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think that's what the rule says.
I have no problem with us issuing an order that they pay according to what the rule says.
Okay.
yeah, I
I'd
have,
make a motion that you pay the witness in accordance with what the rule says.
I'll second.
Any opposed? All in favor? Okay, you're not ordered.
May I make a comment, a request that if we're going to have the hearing in 30 days, could we set a deadline for the documents to be produced to us
Well,
in
yeah, I don't want
advance?
the referee to set a deadline for y'all to get together and narrow it down to something that's feasible to do and to get it returned, but before the hearing, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, myself nor the colonel will be here in March. Is it possible for us to set this for the April?
April, May, and June are already scheduled.
I mean, the colonel is gonna be a necessary
Um,
witness.
We could, July is the next,
What's the date on July?
the second Thursday of July.
Should know that.
13th?
I can't do July. I'm in a federal jury trial. And
We're
he's
not-
out of
we're-
town.
We're dealing with something that's happened in the past and it just needs to be decided whether it was appropriate or not. So it's not like it's an urgent, we have to have urgency on having it. So let's pick another date, I guess. And so don't worry about whether you're gonna waive the 30-day notice.
August 10th?
August?
I'm good. So far.
August 10th,
Yes.
10 a.m. And then I'll set a pre-hearing, another pre-hearing conference where we can discuss all the deadlines that need to be had.
My suggestion would be that we do this sooner rather than later.
We will.
Work this out, if it can be worked out. Or if we need to readdress this issue because if the parties don't work out some limitations, then we're gonna have to impose a limitation. Well, I guess you could impose that limitation too. Well, we'll figure that out. Ready, so that moots item number 8 on the agenda, that matter in the matter of Russell Graham, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 22-264-S. That hearing is now continued to August.
Thank you.
How do we get him his money?
I'll get with Greg and get whatever information, well, you get with Greg. Just tell him you have to, from there, he'll kind of set things in motion between Ginger and whoever else.
Something else you needed?
Yeah, I guess everyone's released from their subpoena for today.
Of course they are. We didn't have a hearing.
Yes.
And we'll reissue new subpoenas. This does not suffice as a subpoena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I would. Yes, that's exactly what was
Stay on task, sorry.
All right, before we move to the director's report, I do want to take a moment to welcome a new member to the Louisiana State Police Commission. It's Member Burnell M. Neville. Commissioner Neville was nominated by the Louisiana Christian University and among others, and appointed by the governor to serve on the commission. And he is now serving from the 2nd Congressional District. Would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to serve. I'm a native New Orleanian, have a background in local law enforcement. I was a public servant for 28 years. I've served with the New Orleans Police Department for 25 years, local sheriff's office for 3, and also the United States Air Force Reserve for 26. I now work in the public sector. I'm looking forward to being a constructive member of this body. Thank you all.
Director's report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's only two items on my report today. Behind tab number 9 in your binders, you'll find the expenditures of the commission. Those are effective as of yesterday.
Are we on track for our budget?
We are going to seek additional funds for legal services because of the extraordinary nature of this fiscal year. We have exhausted our legal services hours, and we're going to amend our contract to reflect that for the next, for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And then the last item I just want to call the Commissioner's attention is that we are looking forward to the promotional exam in May. And the upcoming exam, we've scheduled that for May 25th in Baton Rouge, Alexandria, and Shreveport. And then a makeup exam opportunity will be held on May 31st in Baton Rouge only. And that's the extent of my report at this time.
Were there any requests to address the commission on items not on the agenda?
There were not.
Unless there's an objection, meeting is adjourned. I don't see anyone.